Well, good afternoon or good day. Hopefully everyone can hear us here. Walter is just getting on here, so I'll get the ball rolling here. How's everybody today on this fine Wednesday? Let me see if... Well, good afternoon or good day. All right, I think the sound is coming through, so we're good. Give me a thumbs up, somebody, if in fact you can see... If you can hear the sound, that would be great. All right. Well, technology is always fun, isn't it? Walter has a Mac, and it looks like he's having trouble coming into this platform here with a Mac, and so we'll kind of see what can be sorted out here. But we'll just go ahead and start here. So, Walter, are you able to even just on a phone, Walter, if you can come in via your phone, that would work as well. All right, let's see if somebody can confirm that they can hear me. Wow, I see that Jim here says that it is 50th Earth Day today. That's good to know, Jim. Jim Dick, Mr. Jim Dick from my music community, and he's out and about right now. And so, Walter, hopefully you can join us right away here. So, what a beautiful day it is outside, hey? Just looking outside here, it's all dried. And so I'm going to introduce my next guest here before he's able to even get onto the line with us. Hands up in the audience if you happen to know Walter Schwabe. I've known Walter for a number of years now, and he also lives in the same town that I do, in fact. It's Sherwood Park here in Alberta, and it's great to hopefully be able to get him on here as he grapple with the technology challenge there coming in. Who else in the audience have Mac? My sons have Mac, and they tend to work pretty good. Hey, Walter, I see you, and I see you in the waiting room there, Walter. That's good. How are you doing? Yes. So do you have a mounting thing for your phone there? Or? All right. So sorry about that. Yeah. So we have a number of people who got on using PCs, and they work fine, and various iPhones and various phones. Yeah. 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 All right. Well, without any further delays, I'm going to bring you on here, Walter, on camera. All right. Hello, Walter. How are you doing today?
Hi, Dune. Terrific. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for joining us on fairly short notice. I reached out to you kind of this morning to say, yeah, we have a slot today if you want to join us, and appreciate that you're able to join us. So you're joining us from the same town that I'm at right now, right, Sherwood Park?
Yeah, I'm in Sherwood Park, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So I know some of your friends and colleagues might be watching here an hour or later. Tell us a bit, for those of you out there who don't know Walter, maybe I'll just let you kind of give us a bit of a background. You probably do a better job than I could anyway.
A bio, hey?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I just happily turned, well, I don't know, maybe it's not so much happy, but just turned 50 in January. And, getting to this time in life, you start to think about life a little differently, I think, anyways. I don't know about the viewers or yourself, Dune, but
Hmm.
started to rethink my life a little bit. And I've been a serial entrepreneur for quite a number of years. And one particular company I owned for 20 years, as you know. And so I decided that it was time to rethink life and take a step back and kind of go from there. So I exited out of every business interest I had pretty much simultaneously, and
Hmm.
just cleared my desk, as it were, of my business interest to take a step back and kind of regroup and decompress. And so I spent actually the this past winter. Skiing. I'm actually a ski instructor, a certified ski instructor with the Canadian Ski Instructors Alliance. But the last time I had taught an actual class was about 30 years ago,
Hmm.
and I had never thought that I would get back into it. But my wife Erica, who's a teacher, had taken her class to Snow Valley one day and got to talking to actually what ended up being one of the board members, and they said,
Hmm.
"Well, you should ask him if he wants to come out. You know, we're always
Uh-huh.
looking for good instructors." So the next thing you
Yeah.
know, within about a week,
Hmm.
actually, I was on skis, and so
Hmm.
instructing classes, and I just had a blast this last winter. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. Hey, just a suggestion. I don't know if it works better or worse, but if your camera was turned sideways, where you would be able to take
Yeah,
the entire screen, maybe we try
sure,
that.
sure. Let's do that.
Uh, oh no, you know what? It didn't do it because
It didn't.
it probably remember your orientation when you came
Yeah.
in or somehow.
Okay.
All right, so that didn't work.
Well, do you
Uh,
want to stop the stream and restart it, and I'll
you know,
position the camera? Or
you can come right back in. I can, have you off, and you can come back in horizontal if you want to try that.
yeah, that if
Yeah.
that works for you, sure, I can do that.
Okay, I'm gonna just
Kick
get
me
rid of.
out.
Yeah. All right, come right back in. So technology gremlins, right? I mean, Walter has a nice sort of Mac computer that he was planning on getting on, and a few minutes before the time here, he tried it, and it's been fighting him back. So hasn't been able to show the camera on the machine. So anyway, here we are, and Walter has a very diverse background, all the way from technology to social media to even a running for office at one time as well. And I see, Walter, you are back, and it it just doesn't like the horizontal. So we're gonna have to. Oh, go. Could you flip it or no? No, I think it favors the. Oh, there you are. Whatever you did there, it was just awesome. So you are back on. So
Okay, good. That's better.
yeah, yeah, you bet. So yeah,
You
if
know,
you could.
back in 2010, my company and our team had started a live streaming business, and so it's ironic that you and I are doing this right now as a result of the sort of the situation we're in.
Isn't
Uh,
it? Yes.
yeah. Hey, I'm wondering. I got a couple of people messaging me, Dune. Just that the link isn't working or the app isn't working. Maybe you could post the link one more time.
No,
Um,
no, they don't need to go to the link. It's on Facebook Live.
yeah, maybe. Okay.
No, no, it is live. All they have to do is refresh their uh
Refresh it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna tag you here, and so then they'll be able to refresh. Okay, it's on my wall, and when I went live with this one here, apparently it didn't tag you, right?
Yeah. That's all
So,
right.
but if they go onto my timeline, they can see it there. But I'm just going to quickly correct this here for you. But you go ahead. It is being broadcasted, so go ahead.
Okay, so but back in 2010, we were working with, I mean, TriCaster technology and streaming technology, um, and really launching our own live streaming service for people who could buy time on air. And we had a lot of fun with it. We generated some revenue, and actually managed to influence some interesting scenarios politically and business wise. But we don't have to talk about that today. It's just that camera orientation, lighting, sound, all that kind of stuff is brings me back. So
Yes, yes, yes. And tell your contact to see if they can see it on your wall now. I'm going to go and check here, but
yeah,
it should be there.
I've kind of given them some direction. So let's just focus and
Yeah. All right. So a bit of a shift of direction there for you, and in terms of what you focus on, and how are you finding the whole sort of new skiing and all of that? Are you? I guess it's only in the winter and whatnot. Do they have different programs there for this time of the year, or how does that work? All right, I think Walter somehow dropped off the air there, and so hopefully you can come right back in, Walter. Technology, hey? All right, so hopefully you can still hear us, and hopefully Walter is coming right back in here. And okay, I think you're coming back on here, Walter.
well, I got a phone call and the app kicked me out. So
Oh, is that what happened?
yeah,
Yeah. So the skiing is so how 6 months a year, or how does that work,
I
Walter?
skied 80 days.
80 days, cool. Yeah.
So from December, January, February, and of course we got shut down because of the pandemic, so we didn't get to finish the season, which is unfortunate. But so I didn't get to ski this spring, and which is kind of driving me nuts. I have to say a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I was loving it. I really was, and my skiing was coming along. I lost a bunch of weight, and I feel great, and that way. But now it's been a month or more that we've been off the snow, so I find it
Mm-hmm.
frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah. Walter, if you could, because I tagged you in the post there, if you go to your timeline on your Mac and you simply just
Yeah,
do
here we
this,
go.
yeah. If you approve it, then your folks can see it on your timeline. So what happened is the original thing that says we plan to go live. When we go live, it becomes, I guess, invalidated.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so yeah, we have to get the new post there. So
Okay, there we
hopefully,
go. Yep. So I'll just add that to the timeline,
yeah,
and there, it's
yeah.
added.
If you're not time constrained
No, I'm
today,
not. No.
Walter, we can run well past the to make up for this technology thing that we're fighting with here. But so tell us more. I was just saying while you were off there for a few minutes that you have quite a diverse background. So maybe just kind of quickly run through your background there, just for us to kind of understand where you came from and where you're heading.
Well, okay. Well, we just covered skiing, so I won't go into that any longer. But as I said, I've been a business owner for 20 plus years, and lots of different businesses in the past. But predominantly, the company Fused Logic was a digital agency, and we worked with everybody from Microsoft to all three levels of government, and a whole host of many small and medium-sized businesses over the years. And one of the key areas we focused on was analytics. So
Mm-hmm.
tracking conversation, tracking sentiment. One of the interesting stories I have related to that was back in 2009, I got hired by the company got hired by the Alberta government to track conversation related to then Premier Stelmach. He was going on a trip to the UK, a junket to promote our energy sector,
Mm-hmm.
and the Public Affairs Bureau had asked us to, if we could track conversation online related to his statements and his releases, and also just anything related to the energy sector at the time. So we did that for 45 days. Um, And through that, we mapped out approximately. This wasn't part of the contract. This is where I had the team tasked to track and monitor the top 1,000 environmental bloggers, journalists, anybody who was an influencer. So, and they were if they were in the conversation and influencing the conversation, we were basically mapping and creating circles of influence around each of them. So, for example, if you worked for Greenpeace and you decided that what you were going to do was, comment about something the premier said, and as a result of that, this particular journalist from the Guardian newspaper picked it up and then wrote a story, we were tracking that and understanding the relationships. So, um, what we were actually contracted to do was just to monitor the conversation and let the public affairs bureau know of anything that would be of concern for them that they might have to respond to.
Hmm.
And again, this was back in 2009. Today, 10, 11 years later, it's first of all far easier to do that.
Hmm.
We had to use a multiple of software and a team that was uh, trained on the fly as to
Hmm.
what to look for in terms of understanding influence, understanding connections and relationships, and also understanding the software and the different softwares that we were using. So yeah, it was an interesting time, and we built an analytics business out of that, and basically used that experience and understanding to be able to amplify messaging.
Hmm.
So messaging, that could be marketing a product. It could also be political. It could also be, nonprofits, whatever the
Right.
message was, right? So
So
understanding how
you were
we as
deep.
humans connect it was important.
Yeah. So you were deep into social media before the rest of us probably even got an account on the Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, huh?
Well, actually, yeah, going backwards, I guess in time. My very first account was in 2000, and my very first blog, basically. I started
Hmm.
blogging in 2005, but I had been studying blogging for about a year. So throughout 2004, while Facebook was just being created by Mark Zuckerberg and still private, I was studying blogging because that was really the predominant area for social media at the time.
Hmm.
Um, and but then I would study apps as they came on board, and Napster, and
Hmm.
all sorts of different technologies. So I was really immersing myself in that. Before that, though, I worked for the Business Development Bank of Canada as a senior consultant,
Hmm.
marketing consultant at the time for a couple of years,
Yep.
and uh, you know. We actually, I don't know, Dune, do you remember the Bargain Finder Press?
Yes, yes, I have spent plenty of hours on that. Yes, bargain
Yeah,
finder.
yeah. So way back in the day when they still printed newspapers and you still looked at classified ads in a printed paper, the Bargain Finder Press was that free classified ad paper.
Hmm.
Back in 1999 and 2000, one of the very first things that I did with the company was we created our very own video app. There was no video players at the time. Like
Hmm.
YouTube didn't exist, players didn't exist. You had to create your own, code it.
Hmm.
So we did, and I created a video, basically a video gallery of, in this case, used cars. Our first client was a used car
Hmm.
guy,
Hmm.
and so we did one of the very first, if not, I don't know, in Canada, maybe the first video walk around of vehicles and as a gallery on a website. This was back in 1999, and so from that, we expanded into multimedia and all sorts of things that evolved into what is today social media.
Hmm. There's a note from Jim Dick there. You can probably see on screen. It says because he had an experience with Mac and Be Live the other day.
Yeah,
He said with your Mac browser you have to provide permission for Facebook to use the camera.
you
So
know
now,
what I was thinking about that, and thanks, Jim. That's a great point. And I was going to, just as I was switching to my phone,
yeah.
I was going to go into my privacy settings on Facebook.
Yeah.
I have done a Facebook Live before, and it has worked perfectly, but I may have changed my settings since then. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
So
I mean, if it's okay with you, I'll just stick with the phone for now, I guess.
absolutely, completely your choice. Yeah, well, at least we have the horizontal format now, so that's good.
Yeah, that's better.
Social media, being one of the sort of pioneering kind of forerunners of the sort of the whole social media movement back then, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever that was,
Uh-huh.
has social media turned out to be what you thought it would be?
Well, that's all. It's a kind of a big question in the sense that yes and no.
Mhm,
One of the things that we saw early on through our analytics work is tracking behavior, behavioral patterns of people. You could see early on, like again, a decade ago, um, how things could go negatively, how things could go, and amplify. Let's just say that.
mhm,
So the amplification factor of apps today is, far beyond I think what we were experiencing a decade ago. Having said that, the other thing that I think is probably gone way, I don't know, maybe way further, maybe not, is privacy issues. So there's it's incredibly difficult to manage your privacy, as we're even experiencing right here with the camera issue on my Mac.
mhm,
The managing privacy, managing our data, everything that identifies Dune, you,
mhm,
um, that's your data. And the information, all the identification, government or otherwise,
mhm,
is your information, and this content that you're creating,
mhm,
that we're creating collectively between you, me, and the audience, is, as we know, the property of Facebook and to possibly Be Live. I obviously didn't get into their privacy and
mhm,
permissions, but the reality is that they're owning this content, and they're doing a lot of cross collaboration, we'll call it politely, with other large organizations. So Facebook, Apple, Google, to name the big three, um, are absolutely sharing our information. And in fact, there's a setting on Facebook that everybody should go to, and because now Facebook has been tracking your off-site activities, right? They track you now when you're visiting other websites and locations. So you need to go into your settings and check and shut off your off-site tracking by
mhm.
Facebook. It's
Yeah.
up to you, but it's something you should do. So when you ask that question, I think that the privacy concerns for me and what's ahead for my daughters is something that I take very seriously. And it's very difficult, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms that are mining and basically creating the ability to crunch more data than ever before. So I've been doing a fair amount of research in that space, and that's why one of the things I'm going to be focusing on going forward. This is kind of a top secret thing at this point. As much as I'll say is blockchain. Blockchain will be something that I continue to focus on going forward, and the reason is because right now there's such a thing as identity fraud. Right? Somebody wants to be Walter Schwabe, they can steal my information and go out and go buy themselves a Maserati or something in my name, and then I'm stuck with it. Right? And so, to prevent that, interestingly, the blockchain is going to eliminate identity fraud. And for people who are watching and paying attention, they may not be all that aware of what blockchain is, but essentially it's a ledger that, for all intents and purposes, cannot be changed. Once you make an entry in this ledger, it cannot be changed, and so, or at least it is incredibly difficult to change.
Mhm,
So it is absolutely more secure when you're saving information, whether that's intellectual property or your driver's license. When you're saving it, here's how it will remove identity fraud. let's say that you took all of your government ID, your passport, driver's license, etc., and you saved it into a digital file, and then you entered that digital file and saved it onto the blockchain. Once you do that, it is tagged with a timestamp and a unique number or ID called a hash. That is unique to that file. And because you've entered it right now at this time, whatever time it was, if
Hmm.
somebody tried to steal your identity tomorrow,
Hmm.
you could prove that you are truly who you are because you have this file that cannot be changed. And this has been accepted in courts.
Hmm.
They've accepted blockchain evidence as valid. And so it's immutable, cannot be changed. So you could prove that the other guy was a fraud.
Hmm.
And because of that, eventually, as the applications get developed for all of us to save our information that way, it will virtually eliminate identification fraud. So I'm looking forward to that day, among many other things. But blockchain is a very interesting space.
Yeah. Hey, cool. Thanks for sharing that. I like to switch it up a little bit, and uh, we're going to play a game. And that game is I'm going to pull up a photo, and you're going to talk about that photo. And then a few
Okay.
seconds later. Now, first of all, can you see the photo that I'm sharing right now, the
I
blockchain?
can see. I'd have to enlarge it a little bit, but
Yeah,
it is
I'll make
small.
it larger for you. So we're
Okay.
going to go silent in just 1 second here. So give me a second. All I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do.
Okay.
All right. So the audience can see the photo on the sort of the left side of the screen. I know
Yeah.
you're on the phone, so it's not quite the same for you, but
It's
the
okay.
audience sees that on the left and you and I on the right here. So let's start with the beginning here. I'm going to go to a photo that's sort of way up here, and I think I'm going to go here. So this, how long ago was this? You look a little bit young there, hey? Young and bubbly.
Not that. Well, thank you very much. I that was a picture I took actually just after I had filed for my candidacy to run for council here in Strathcona County for Ward 2. So
Hmm.
I'd literally just finished the paperwork, and to kind of quickly commemorate that, I took a picture. So that was only just a few years ago. And yeah, it was an interesting time in my life, actually, in my family's life.
Hmm. Right. So then the next photo.
Running for
Tell us about
politics.
that. Tell us about this photo.
Well, for 7 years I was a panelist on Alberta Prime Time, and so over the course, they were telling me a little bit of the numbers. Over the course of 7 years, we ended up reaching about 12 plus million Albertans and beyond, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's just one of the various times I was on air, and we talk about all sorts of various topics. I can be a political animal. I can have opinions on things other than politics, of course. And we just really didn't know often what the topics would kind of be until, a couple of hours before going to tape. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fun time. 7 years I did that though. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. No, I know when I met you, yeah, I think the first time I met you was actually at an equestrian sort of outing. Do you remember what that was?
Moonlight in the Meadows with Eric
Moonlight in
and
the
Kate,
Meadows. That's
and
right. Moonlight. Yeah. That must have been 10
the
years ago. More.
Alberta Technology ABC. So
Right.
it was an ABC Tech
Yeah. Yeah.
event. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So then tell us about this. This is fairly current.
Yeah. Well, as some who logged in earlier, they'll know that skiing has always been a passion of mine. But what's interesting is I have to thank my wife Erica and the girls for reigniting the sport for me, because Erica and her three girls come from Nova Scotia, and So they didn't do any skiing at all because there's really only one hill out there to ski, and it's not
Mhm.
usually the snow conditions are not like they are out here. So she asked once she found out I was an instructor, a former instructor at the time, if
Uh-huh.
I would teach her and the girls, and I said, of course, yes. And
Mhm.
so they turned out to just love it. And so now as a family, we have that as a sport, and we love to go to the mountains. And I actually proposed to my wife, Erica, at the top of Lake Louise
Wow.
at the end of a ski weekend, spring break ski weekend in 2016. So,
Mhm.
yeah, she and I just love it.
Hey, were you going to hip hop stuff, hip hop scene? Or what's the deal here?
I was feeling a little bluesy that day. It's I'm in a local donair joint. There's a couple of donair joints here locally, as I'm sure you know, Dune being a local.
Mhm.
This is Rob's Donair by the Home Depot there, and I just happen to wear. I don't wear that hat too often, but every once in a while, when I want to change it up,
Mhm.
there you go. So
Mhm.
somebody had asked me at the time. This is how the selfies come about for me. I don't often take them, but when I do, it's kind of somebody asked me, "What are you doing?" And so that'll be my response.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a stint with motorcycles, right? And
Yeah. Well, interesting. I've ridden motorcycles for pretty much all of my life, thanks to my dad and also my brother and my cousins. It was something that we did, and dirt bikes originally, and then I progressed into street bikes in the 80s, the
Mhm.
mid to late 80s, and this is my current bike. Although it's not currently at the moment looking as good as it is there. That's the
Uh,
day I brought it home.
uh,
But that is a beautiful bike. It's a 1984 Honda um, 1100 CB 1100F Super Sport, and so for people who are motorcycle enthusiasts, they'll know that Honda brought out a race engine, a CB 900, back in the day in 1983, I think it was. And so this is the bigger brother to that in terms of the size of engine. And so originally it's got some racing heritage, this bike and the one prior. And so I just this has been one of my bucket list items is to own this particular model. So
there you
my
go.
friend Tom Booth, who is uh, a a former national champion, a flat track racing national champion. He's my go-to motorcycle guru guy. He always now he says, "Why do you want to own something with carburetors? Why don't you get fuel injection? And so
Mhm.
much easier." And I mean, of course, he's right, but I'm pretty nostalgic. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned bucket list. Hey, do you want to go into that? What's another couple
Sure.
items on your bucket list that hasn't been filled out yet?
Oh, wow, it's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind, and it's related to skiing, is to be able to ski in Chamonix, France. This is a place that is well known for its extreme skiing and free skiing. And it's a very beautiful place of the world. But I would love to go skiing there just to say I did, and certainly would not be, tackling some of the lines that some people who are far more capable at skiing than I do. But I would love to be able to ski there and ski something challenging at least, so I could say I did that. So that's one of the bucket list items I have for sure.
Cool. Hey, you were, I guess there's a shout out from Strathcona County folks there.
The Strathconian. This
Is
is the
that the newspaper?
Strathconian.
Yeah.
That's the anonymous Strathconian account who antagonizes the local elected officials and politicians, and yeah, nobody knows who they are.
So
Well,
you had a taste of that, the whole political life for a short while, sort of
yeah, I did. Yeah,
on the fence of that.
that particular picture is a family picture we took as a campaign photo, just for background on who I am and who the family is.
Hmm.
And so that's my wife Erica and our four beautiful girls, and of course they're a little older today. They're pretty much all teenagers today, but yeah, that was us. And yeah, that was shot by a good friend of mine, Andrew Shaw, who is a photographer. I have two really good friends who are photographers. Andrew Shaw took this particular picture and took all of our campaign photos. He was kind enough to donate his services to do that.
Yeah.
And we really love this picture, and he suggested we all get dressed up in white and for the day, in jeans and white shirts, and so I think it turned out pretty well.
Mhm.
I mean, as pretty as you can make this look, it's difficult, but there it is.
Yeah, cool.
Um, and I'm
How's COVID affecting your family, if I may ask? Is it pretty difficult? Is it you got used to it?
actually, you know, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. So
Mm,
I even though in my professional life as a paid public speaker for 15 years and commenting in media and all that kind of stuff, I actually prefer not to be in crowds. And
mm,
so, me being at home and working from home is something that I take to pretty easily. But the family, my wife Erica, who's a elementary school teacher, she is currently teaching as we speak. In the basement, she's set up her own studio there to do
yeah,
teaching, and she's very busy. She's you know doing more video work than you and I are doing right
there
now.
you
She's
go. See,
6 hours a day
things.
pounding away. So
Yeah,
every day during the week, it's quite busy for her. But the girls, I think, are adapting pretty well to the schedule that is their schoolwork and their high school stuff. They're a little frustrated by teachers not using all the same applications,
yeah.
so they have to go to various places to do the same thing that other kids are just using, Google Meet and so on for. But anyways, if that's the worst thing that they have to deal with, that's pretty good.
So, what comes to mind when you see this photo, Walter? What's
Well, this is one of my very favorite photos of a show that my other photography friend, Rob Hislop,
of course, yeah.
took. Rob went to Africa, and he was there for a specific reason, not just to go see the gorillas. But the gorillas, I think, was a bucket list item for him, and so he had an opportunity to venture off one day and go up the mountain and take some shots. He then did a great show just last year um, at a gallery, and he was asked to do a show, and this was one of his prints, and I just love this one because this particular silverback, if you look at him,
Hmm.
the facial expression is just like, oh my goodness, not another photographer. I'm
Yeah.
getting so tired of having to deal with these guys.
Oh,
And
love
so
that. Love that.
it's just a great shot, I think.
So,
Yeah.
family vacations, I assume.
Yeah, I like to call it my second home.
Hmm.
This is the shoe shop, and when it's time to sort of retire or slow down, that's pretty much Erica and I've decided this is where we're going to end up. So the shoe shop has been a place that I personally have been going to for 30 plus years because
Hmm.
I've got family out there, an uncle and some cousins, and we've been going there ever since they moved out there from here. So it's a place that's near and dear.
So, were you born and raised in Alberta?
In Edmonton, yeah,
In Edmonton, in
at the
fact.
Misericordia.
Misericordia, of
Mhm.
course. Oh,
Ah,
look at
there's
that.
my
Nice summer fun.
yeah. That's a picture of my daughter Sydney, who's pitching. She's now in the U16 level here in Sherwood Park, the Sherwood Park Minor Softball Association. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I when I played as a kid, back in the day, boys played this sport as
Hmm.
well, fastball, and I was a pitcher. Went to junior men's nationals in 1987, and in Port Alberni actually, which is where the nationals were that year.
Hmm.
Um, and so Sydney has picked up. She wanted to start pitching, and boy, I'll tell you, can she really throw a ball? And I mean, every time I catch her, she does something that I used to do to my dad. My dad actually got me into the game. He was a fifth division ball catcher, and fifth division. If you, for those who don't know, there's the Major League Baseball. That's Division. We'll call it Division One.
Hmm.
Then you go down into the minor leagues, and then of course there's several levels of the baseball minor leagues kind of thing. But when you get down through that, there's kind of like four major levels. And the fourth and fifth used to be where men would play fastball. They would transition out of baseball and play fastball. Um, and so, but now typically there are no more boy teams or leagues. There's a few around, and there's certainly men that still play it. But at this level, at this age, it's predominantly girls have taken up the sport and really done amazing things. And so
Hmm.
she catches every once in a while. There's a pitch that she throws. It'll catch me right here on the inside of my index finger, and it'll just hammer away on it, and it just is numb by the time I'm done. So she can definitely throw some power, that kid.
You know, when I first came to Canada and trying out baseball, one of the probably the into the first week, I did one of those mistakes where you kind of put your hand like this, rather, and then the ball
Yeah,
goes like this and up your nose. Yeah,
yeah.
it was a good learning lesson there.
Isn't that great about sports? You know, most sports, I don't know if there's any that aren't, but most sports will immediately
Hmm.
give you feedback if you're making a mistake like that, right?
Yes, I grew up on soccer, right? So coming
Okay.
from Vietnam,
Yeah.
where I came from, but yeah, soccer.
Okay, here's
Yeah,
here's a great connection, Dune. I'm
yeah.
glad you mentioned that because you are right now
Hmm.
lucky enough to be speaking to the only Caucasian guy, the only white guy
Hmm.
to play in an all Vietnamese soccer league when I was a kid
Ah.
in Edmonton. I think I still got a team photo somewhere. I'm the
Hmm.
only white guy, and
Hmm.
I'm surrounded by all of my friends and from high school, junior high, and high school.
Hmm.
And I had a number of friends from Vietnam, and they asked me, like I played soccer with them on the school teams, right? So they asked me to come play,
Yeah.
and it was fascinating. Of course, they would all talk your language,
Ah.
and I had to just anticipate the game based on my knowledge of the game itself and not the language.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you
Well,
just had a picture up of the team, the
yes.
team that this is Erica's team. She decided to coach, and she has now for a couple of years. This would have been the third season. The girl in the front of that picture that's sitting on that the contraption, we'll call it, is my stepdaughter Eloise, and Eloise had broken her ankle, and so unfortunately had to miss a good portion of the season. But that's just after our team won the city championship and the city playoffs this past season. And Sydney's team, the girl who we were just talking about, her team actually also won the city championships in their division. So we had two girls in the house with gold medals, which was great.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip by some photos and tell me which one to pause on here. This is more of your recent skiing, I'm sure, right?
This is me practicing the bumps. Yeah, this is me and my
Oh,
brother.
looks a bit
Um, this is
daunting
me
there for you.
practicing the bumps and trying to get. I want to. At the time, I wanted to go for my level 3 certification. There's 4 levels as an instructor.
Hmm.
And I'm a level 2 currently, and I wanted to go for my level 3 certification. And one of the things that you have to do is to be able to ski the bumps, or moguls as they're known, as if you're skiing on a completely flat groomed run, essentially, in terms of your stability, calmness of upper body, and steering of the skis and so on. So short radius turns outside of the bumps and then short radius turns inside the bumps were something I was working on, and trying not to beat up this 50-year-old body too much while doing it.
You know, I am not ashamed to say that the biggest hill that I have ever skied in my life, my entire life, was remember Tottenham?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Way out there. That
yeah.
was, when I was in grade, I think it was grade 7 or 8. That was probably the last time I went skiing.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great a great memory because I have
yeah,
never actually skied there,
yeah.
and it's something that I would gladly do if I had the opportunity.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is let's see, this has got to be 1980, I think, six,
Yeah.
and so I'm 16 there, and that's my little brother Chad, and we had just been, I think we were skiing. It might have been Castle Mountain, but it
Yeah.
may not. Anyways, my dad, that's our motorhome. My dad had taken us on a ski trip, and that was after a day of skiing. So yeah, just something to commemorate the day with.
Hmm. There's another look there. What were you aiming for there? What was the? Is it more blues? No.
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of hats that are outside of the normal sort of baseball cap stuff, and
Hmm.
so every once in a while, depending on what I'm doing, where I'm going, and the day itself, I'll don that. And this was during the wintertime, so I've got a scarf on and stuff. So yeah, it's one of the looks that I put together.
Yeah. I'm guessing you're talking about what is it here?
This is a schematic related to machine learning. So for those people who are kind of techie on online here, they may not understand how machine learning algorithms work. Basically, a machine learning algorithm has, at the end of the day, it has to make a decision,
Hmm.
yes or no.
Hmm.
Um, Positive, negative. Is it this or is it that? And this is basically a breakdown in terms of cancer research on one particular layout as to how these particular engineers are trying to break down the decisions.
Hmm.
And it just demonstrates basically how it continually narrows the field
Hmm.
to ultimately end up as to one or the other.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see here. Oh, look at that. More Oilers fun. When is this when Oilers was good or after they kind of went down?
Well, yeah, no, this was this past season.
That's
So
good.
I'd say they were good.
Imagine.
Certainly, Connor McDavid and Draisaitl were
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was during a free night where you could bring the family down and take
Nice.
advantage. And so,
Yeah.
there's the Bobcat, giving Sydney a bit of a what for there. So.
Uh-huh. More news. I know you used to go to a lot of those sort of live broadcasts from many different TV stations and networks and whatnot.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
this
What's
is.
your, what's some comments you would make about that whole experience of being in that role?
Well, one of the things that it it taught me very early on was to think in sound bites.
Hmm.
So often I would get interviewed by a particular, in this case, let's say television station, CTV, Global, whoever, and they would be looking to put together a package on something that just happened. And I've commented on many things
Hmm.
related to how technology or social media was influencing a given situation usually, and they would put together a 2 second or 2 minute a piece. They'd interview me or they'd interview you, and you
Hmm.
might talk for 15 minutes with them, but they use a single sentence,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
So I learned that if I wanted to help them with their piece, that I would give them a single sentence. I'd be prepared to
Hmm.
give them a single sentence that they could cut to.
Hmm.
And so I developed that ability to just think on my feet, I guess, based on some of the questions that they asked. One of
Hmm.
the other things I learned was many journalists really suck at asking questions. And that's no offense to journalists, really,
Hmm.
directly, any one particular one. But quite honestly, they don't really ask compelling questions. They ask sort of sometimes very obvious things. And I
Hmm.
think often it's because they deal with people who aren't really used to being on camera
Hmm.
and thinking. So they're just trying to keep it simple, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Um,
dominant.
but
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I picked up from it. And I've over the years I've been on every major television station here locally, also radio and all many different prints. So it's being interviewed is something that has come naturally.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of stretch your brain cells a bit here. What would be what the top kind of right now, the way you think about the top kind of memorable kind of uh, soundbite that you recall, whether from you or from someone else that you could share? Yeah, you got one that really stands out at the moment. One that
Hmm.
sort of
A soundbite that stands out.
yeah that you have either delivered or
I don't
heard.
know if I don't know if I remember any one particular that either keeps me up at night or I regret or anything like that.
Yeah.
But there are often stories that come about that you have a chance to sort of influence. And there are many opportunities where, for example, government officials, whether it be the premier at the time, or a minister, or elected official in a municipality, the mayor or something, says something or does something online, and then they were asking me to comment on it as to maybe how they should have handled it.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself that have commented on that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
routinely. So, think before you post.
Mm-hmm.
Never post anything that you wouldn't want your mother to read as a headline tomorrow. And these are just basics. And quite frankly, I mean, I have, over the course of several years, influenced many news cycles with headlines and so on, and often people may not have even known. But you know, it's been a fascinating experience that way. And in terms of what other people may have said, I mean, man, the list is endless there.
Yeah. So, and the other one is listen to your wife when she says something, right? Is that another?
One 1,000%. If you want to have a happy life in quarantine, especially, you need to make sure that you pay close attention to your love language, and and her love language. And quite frankly, I've known that my wife's love language, one of the key things is acts of affection. So things that I do around the house, do the laundry, or cook a dinner or something like that. She appreciates that far more than me saying something. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that right off the bat. It's taken
Mm-hmm.
me some years to figure it out, but and I'm not certainly perfect by any stretch on that point, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, yeah. We're all evolving, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, is this again that bucket list there?
Yeah, well,
Retirement goals?
um, this particular book, Chase the Lion, is an interesting book. It was actually given to me by a good personal friend of mine, David, and it intertwines my Christian faith with um, you know motivation, to
Mm-hmm.
be focused and get things done, kind of thing, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very interesting series of stories that demonstrate, you know, doing the right thing in the face of adversity, or pushing through and being motivated and being focused.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really fascinating book. But I took that picture because, of course, I'm sitting on the dock in the shoe shop, and what better place to have a coffee, read a book,
Mm-hmm.
than, and I can imagine that everybody watching right now, and in the future, they have their quiet spot, or their peaceful area or place that they would love to return to, and just read a book. And during the pandemic, ironically, I haven't been this busy in some time. But for many of us, sitting at home doing nothing is pretty much a large part of our day now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you spoke about this earlier. This is the evidence from that period in your life there where you
Yeah, where
were.
I jumped into municipal politics. Well, I had been
Yeah.
asked to run on a couple of three different occasions, and it was never the right time. I was very busy with business, and the family situation, whatever it was at that time in the
Mm-hmm.
cycle of elections. It just wasn't the right time. And then this most recent election, municipal election, I was asked again, and considered it seriously. But it also had to be a family decision. A move like that into politics at any level has to involve your family, because it impacts them greatly. And in this case, I mean, Erica and the girls really were basically my campaign team. Erica was my campaign manager. For never having managed a campaign before, she did a phenomenal job. And the girls helped us do, lit drops throughout the community, and knock on doors, and try to meet everybody we could. And so we were up against, a tough incumbent, Dave Anderson, and Um, it's always difficult to dislodge an incumbent in politics unless they give you some sort of massive blow up scandal that they self implode on, and then you just waltz in. And
Yeah.
that certainly wasn't the case here. So, but it was an interesting exercise. I certainly, there was lots about it. I enjoyed about it, and some things I didn't. But yeah, an interesting time in life, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all those photos. I like to sort of switch gear a little bit and go a little bit deeper before wrapping it up there. And so, thanks for sharing all the different segments of your life so far. Quite a diverse adventure. But
Well, thanks for asking.
I'm gonna take out this thing here, and we're gonna just be back here. And so, in terms of let me ask one question. With all of the different kind of life segments that you had and the very different things that you really sort of sunk your teeth into, uh, if I were to ask you three sort of big life lessons that you learned from that whole journey, what would those three lessons be? And maybe give a bit of context on why they were lessons. Or
Okay, well, that's kind of a okay. Let me think about that a little bit. I'll just pull it off the cuff.
you bet, yeah.
One of the things that I think I've definitely learned from is or learned over the years is to um, listen more. Even though in this particular case, I've been doing pretty much all the talking. Uh, in life in general, and certainly in business and politics for that matter, the more listening you can do, the better. And often, the person with the most power in the room is the person who speaks last.
Mhm.
And as a young business owner, starting my business when I was a younger guy, you're always anxious and motivated to get people's attention and get them just to believe in you. Just give you that shot. Just believe in you and say, yes, I'm going to go on this adventure, whatever it is, with you. I'm going to believe in you and go. And so you struggle pretty much every day as a business owner to try to get people to basically trust you and believe in what you're trying to sell or say or do. And I've learned to do the reverse now. And what I do is I seek to learn and listen and learn from others as much as possible. And if there is an alignment in terms of the business or an idea, um, it'll reveal itself and it'll come together quite simply. But you find that after listening and learning, and so I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I would take away. And you know, uh, interestingly, being on the other side of the microphone in your position today, Dune, I've been there many times, and I've had my own podcast,
Mhm.
working with a fellow named Thomas Brabeck and also Michael Crichton. And Thomas is a terrific producer and engineer, sound engineer, and also musician. And the two of you guys should connect for sure.
Mhm.
He's incredibly accomplished and really, really good, and always likes to connect with musicians and guys who are in music and making music business. So, but it's interesting because I try to um, in the interest of learning, I didn't set any limits to who I wanted to interview. So one of the things that I did as soon as I had and I had a radio show on the Team 1260 for a while there, and it was the only radio show actually in North America focused on social media. And the only reason I know that is because we were approached by an agent out of New York City who syndicated radio shows. That's what he did,
Mhm.
and he had heard one of our episodes and said, "Look, there's nothing like this on air. Nothing on satellite. Nothing in the U.S. Like, do you want to syndicate it?" And I asked him, I said, well, what would be involved in that? And he said, well, you'd have to either move to Toronto or New York. And I just said, well, stop right there. Not doing that.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that didn't proceed that way. But, I've never put any limits on who I could reach out to and talk to. And so I've had the good fortune of interviewing or interacting with and communicating with some really interesting people, some pretty big names. I mean, as I was writing my first book, which I didn't finish,
Hmm.
I was interviewing. It got me into the White House. It got me into the CIA. It got me into the New York State Senate. It got me into NASA. It got me into
Hmm.
the guy. He won't describe himself as this, but I do. The guy responsible for getting to a place where all U.S. armed forces personnel would be able to use social media applications. Up until what this guy did, Lieutenant Colonel Gerald Ostlund, nobody in the U.S. Armed Forces could use Facebook or any other social media. And it was because of his effort that broke down those barriers and changed that policy. And so I had a chance to interview this guy, which I found fascinating.
Hmm.
So just being able to reach out and be brave enough to just ask. I mean, the worst case scenario is that they say no, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So just asking is something I would take away as well. And I think uh, the third thing I would say today as a lesson is don't waste time.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is not to say that you should just be busy for busy sake, but um, you know, focus on living the life that you want and not really worrying about trying to please everybody. So as I reinvent my life at this moment,
Hmm.
that's absolutely at the core. I'm going to build out the way I want to build it out with, and working most importantly with the people I want to work with.
Hmm.
Um, because a large part of the passion, I don't know for you, but for me is the people you get to work with and interact with.
Hmm.
And even though I'm an introvert, the sort of one-on-one or one to few is very good for me. That's interesting. That's the social element that I appreciate. But
Right.
and that or being on stage, and I know that you have
Hmm.
got countless hours and years behind you on stage as well, so I know you know what I mean.
Hmm.
When you're on stage, there's nothing like it. if
Hmm.
if I could, for me, the day I go live on stage is like game day for me. Like if I had my own jersey for
Hmm.
for for representing that moment in time, I'd put it on every day that I got a chance to go on stage. And
Hmm.
it's mostly because I love sharing whatever knowledge I'm supposed to be sharing at that point. But it's just so much fun to watch people sort of pick up on what you're sharing and run with it in some way. So it
Hmm.
just means that you're being of value, that you're helping others, and that's at the spirit of what I love about it. So,
You bet. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that I rambled on for about 2
No,
minutes there, Dave.
no,
I
you
don't know.
cover the three items. You know what? We had some technical glitches early on there in the call, and so we are good to go a little bit longer here. So what I'm hearing you say is when it comes to speaking being one of the sort of big passion that you have, and you just sort of enjoy that moment and enjoy that time on stage. There's a lot of sort of thoughts that goes into the idea of delivering content versus changing minds and affecting emotions. So on that sort of note, as you think about that, and as you think about COVID and the kind of stay home phenomenon that we're all experiencing here, what are some emotions that you would want to encourage people to explore in order to kind of effectively navigate through times here with COVID? Because I think emotions are very powerful.
Well, I mean, emotions are predominantly the reason we do everything. We do everything to either achieve pleasure or avoid pain, if you want to just simplify it, right?
Hmm.
And so emotions are at the core of that particular, decision process. I mean, we might justify things with logic afterwards, but we start that decision process and ultimately make the decision based on emotions. So you're right; it's incredibly important. And during the quarantine time, one of the things that I've been focusing on is taking advantage of the free time that we all have. And it's not to say that nobody's working. It's not to say that nobody still has to earn a living and those kinds of things. But certainly, we have a lot more free time to focus on the things that are really important to us. And so I would consider, if you've thought of doing something, some sort of big project or different project that's away from your daily grind. Um, do it.
Mhm.
Write that book, start a video podcast just like you're doing. Um, the amount of video podcasts and group video chats and things that are going on, this is going to have a lasting effect in terms of how we meet, communicate, and do business. And I've been immersed in that for years, as we've already discussed. But for many others, they're exploring that capability just now, just today, or this last month. And it is going to have a lasting effect, and it's going to open up a whole lot of doors for a lot of people.
Mhm.
So think positively about that, and don't worry. I don't think we should worry about the potential of the virus. I don't think we should worry about that at all. I think we should be diligent in terms of hygiene, washing our hands, and doing all those things, and err on the side of caution. I mean, we clean all of our food as it comes in from the grocery store once a week, and everything we wipe it down before we bring it into the house, or as we bring it into the house, and it's working for us. I mean, thankfully our family is all healthy, and
Mhm.
everything's been just fine. But the reality is, I think people are going to focus a bit more on hygiene going forward, a bit more um, on um, on being respectful of distance and things like that. But I don't think that we should panic and be paranoid. I think that we should just be diligent and use common sense going forward.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that the economy is going to be dramatically different. Um, and I think that presents opportunity. I think that there is a tremendous amount of opportunity as a result of the shift in policy, the shift in where the money is coming and going. And I think that listeners should think about that and think about where we're going to be positioned in the next 6 months, but not only the next 6 months, how this is going to change the next 10 years.
Mhm.
And then as you think on that over a tea or a coffee, um, or a glass of water, uh, imagine what that's going to look like for your family, and what you could be positioning yourself and or your family to take advantage of. At least that's kind of how I think as an entrepreneur, and
Mhm.
as somebody who appreciates technology and studies technology, and
Yeah.
what's coming down the pipe as far as advancements go.
You talk about soundbite. Listening to what you've just said there reminded me of a quote that we all know. I don't know who and which sort of story or movie it came from, but the moment I say it, everybody's going to recognize it. It's basically a standard sort of saying that starts many stories, and it goes, and it applies to the time that we're in, I think, with COVID, and that is, it was the worst of times, and it was the best of times.
The best of time, exactly.
I think in many ways we can look back at the days that we're having right now as being both of those. And I'm hoping that many of our viewers will see it as well. In some ways, it's very bad. And in some ways, it is the worst of time in some aspects for some people, for many people. But some ways, it also is a very sort of the best opportunity that is a once in a lifetime opportunity for many of us as well. So I choose to see it that way as well. I choose to kind of see both of those.
I think that is absolutely perfect, Dune. I think you couldn't have picked a better quote. I think it's exactly that. Um, for some families, many families around the world, suffering on the health side, possibly experiencing death in their family, it is a very sad time, very difficult. Others who are being hit economically, whether it's their business or their job, on a negative basis, it's incredibly stressful. Never in our history of the world have we ever experienced, I think, something like this. Not to say that there hasn't been, viruses in the past. We know that, but what I'm kind of referring to right now is the spread of ideas, and sometimes not good ones, that end up permeating our psyche and getting us worrying and full of anxiety,
Hmm.
and maybe not having all the facts, but just hitting that soundbite or that headline and going, wow, now I got to freak out about that.
Hmm.
Um, but I think, what the other thing is that we're going to find what we're looking for. You if you're looking for more things to worry about, you can find an endless list of them.
Mhm.
But if you focus on the positives and what we can all be grateful for, the things that are going right, that's where I think we need to focus our energy and leverage that. Because quite frankly, again, we have a tremendous. This is like a do over.
Mhm.
Like remember. Oh man, now of course the name of the movie shoots right out of my head. But
Mhm.
um, it was the three guys that were going on a trip, and he's talking about the one guy, ends up getting divorced, and he's all um,
City
um,
Slickers.
city slickers. Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Pretty
And he
good,
says,
huh?
"You're getting a do-over, right?" Because he gets to start and I look at this in a way as a do-over for many people. Maybe they're going to start studying or training for a new job as a result of this because the business they worked for has gone out of business, and maybe now this is a new start in their life, and they didn't ask for it, but now they're being forced to. Um,
Mhm.
so depending on how we look at things, if we can look at what we can be grateful for, focus on the positive, look for opportunities. And here's the one thing I will say about Albertans. Albertans literally kick ass. And, pardon my French, but, we power this country. And I don't just mean that from an energy sector's perspective. I mean this from an attitude. We have a get it done, can do attitude like nobody else in the country, I think. And when it comes to rebounding back, I believe that Alberta is going to lead the way in one way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
People talk about us not being diversified enough. But when you look at it, and Dune, I'm sure you've reviewed this as well, but when you look at Alberta in the 1980s compared to Alberta today, the diversification is far different. We are actually far stronger in many industries that people just don't even know. I mean, nanotechnology, biotech, agriculture, you name it. There are so many things that we do well that are away from the energy sector. I just don't think it gets enough airtime.
Mhm.
And but there are tremendous advancements being made in so many different industries. I think Alberta is frankly better positioned than a lot of people think, even though oil is taking a beating right now.
Mhm.
I think that what you can't put down is our spirit,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
think that the Alberta spirit will rise again and lead the way.
All right, I'm going to challenge you on just sort of last thing here, and that is, how would you like to just create a soundbite just out of the blue here? Just create something of a soundbite to take us out, Walter. I'll give you time to think about it while we laugh about it. But really, like what would be a short phrase that you would tell our listeners who have been listening or will be tuning in later? What would be one sentiment that you think would be kind of really important to keep in
I
mind?
think I would say, while routine is important, I would say don't be afraid to break the pattern and avoid becoming complacent. Try something new. Reach out to somebody new. Challenge yourself to learn. Like one of our daughters is learning Italian just out of the blue. I mean, just for fun. So, try something new. Challenge yourself to be better. Challenge
Ah,
yourself to be a better person or a better family or a better somebody or something. At the end of this pandemic, when we get something of a normal life back, challenge yourself to be a better person on some level.
how about this? Hopefully, Nike doesn't come after us, but just just try it. How's
Yeah,
that?
just do it.
Just
Exactly.
try it. Just try
Yeah.
it.
I mean, look, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, again, somebody says no, or you try and fail. Do you know how much you can learn from failing? I mean,
Mhm.
you and I both know that some of the absolute best life lessons are coming out of failures. And if everything goes right, then you typically don't learn much.
Mhm.
So surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. Fail often, fail fast, and try again, and just never give up.
Never give up. Sounds like another Rocky kind of quote, perhaps. But with that, I really want to again, appreciate your time and effort in joining us here, and the dealing with the technology gremlins early on in the call here. But I'm glad it worked out so far, and the internet hasn't dropped on either one of us. So, you know, whenever you can sort of speak right across town or right across province or whatever on this thin line called the internet from our house, we're doing well. So in that way, you know, we're pretty good. So thank you again, Walter, and have a wonderful afternoon, and have a great rest of your week.
Well, thank you, Dune, and thank you for everybody who stuck with us all this time through the discussion and listening to me ramble on. I hope it was fun. I had a lot of fun. I mean, you know, getting an opportunity to just socialize and share and think about things. You made me think about some things that I don't sit and think about every day. So that was a challenge and great. So I really appreciate the opportunity, Dune, and good luck with this as you proceed forward and talk with more people. You know, if you need some suggestions, I got plenty of people I think that are far more interesting than me and that you should talk to. So I'll pass them your way.
Yeah, you bet. That's awesome. That's wonderful. And again, thank you so much, Walter. And I'm just gonna take us out here and leave that photo on there. But
Okay.
all
Take
right,
care.
you bet. Good day.
Take care. Bye bye.